Welcome to English for Academic and Professional Purposes lessons. Today, we will deal with the ways to conduct surveys, experiments, or observations. First, what is survey research? Survey research is defined as the collection of information from a sample of individuals through their responses to questions. This type of research allows for a variety of methods to recruit participants, collect data, and utilize various methods of instrumentation. Survey research can use quantitative research strategies, example, using questionnaires with numerically rated items, qualitative research strategies, example, using open-ended questions, or both strategies, example, mixed methods. Conducting survey is done in 3 steps. 1. By email. 2. By telephone. And the third one, by personal interview. The method of data collection can be from observation to content analysis, and this can be used in the survey. The challenges or limitations of a survey are seen according to the following criteria. 1. Appropriateness of the method. Number 2. Accuracy of what to observe. The third one is generalizability of findings. Number 4, administrative constraints. And number 5 is ethical and political difficulties. An example of a survey is the open-ended questions. This kind of approach is able to provide the respondents the freedom to say what they feel about the topic, which provided you with an exploratory data that may unleash important issues, opportunities. The issues or codes. Let's consider this example. You want to know what proportion of your English class likes rock music. As this example, you would randomly select people and you could ask, for example, do you like rock music? You might be biased towards saying yes or no, depending on how they feel about rock music. Whereas, maybe if you had them rank different kinds of music and gave them different opinions, or maybe you give them different options that would give you a better idea on how they really feel about this type of music. So, the positive side of this method is that it's, it's very time efficient. It's very quick to just come up with a question, ask someone a question, and get their answer, then record it. This is also nice because you get the right to the point in your question. You're designing the question to get the exact information you're looking for so it focuses on the desired response. The negative side of the survey is it's very likely you could get biased responses. And remember, biased responses cause us to get skewed data. And the reason you could get biased response is because when you ask someone a question, the wording is very important. The wording of the question or the way someone interprets your question can cause you to have biased responses. Therefore, you have to be careful on how you will ask and formulate your questions. You have to be careful when conducting a survey. Make sure the wording of your question is not going to cause someone to answer in a different way. The second one is observation. So it may take place in natural settings and involve the researcher taking lengthy and descriptive notes of what is happening. It is argued that there are limits to the situations that can be observed in their natural settings, and that the presence of the researcher may lead to problems with validity. Here are some limitations with observation research. One, change in people's behavior when they know they are being observed. Next, a snapshot view of a whole situation. Think Big Brother. The researcher may miss something while they are watching and taking notes, and the researcher rather, may make judgments, make value statements, or misunderstand what has been observed. Well, here are the strengths of observation research. It can offer a favor for what is happening, can give an insight into the bigger picture. It can also demonstrate subgroups. It can be used to assist in the design of the rest of the research. And sometimes the researcher becomes or needs to become a participant observer, in where he or she is taking part in the situation in order to be accepted and further understand the workings of the social phenomenon. Observation can sometimes obtain more reliable information about certain things. For example, how people actually behave. It can also serve as a technique for verifying or nullifying information provided in face to face encounters. People or environment can be observed. When environment is researched, it can provide valuable background information that may inform other aspects of the research. Observation can sometimes obtain more reliable information about certain things, for example, how people actually behave. It can also serve as a technique for verifying or nullifying information provided in face to face encounters. So, techniques for data. Here are actually some techniques for collecting data through observation. Yes, we have the written descriptions, where the researcher then makes written descriptions of the people. When the researcher makes written descriptions of the people, situations, or environment, the limitations include the researcher might miss out on an observation as they are taking notes. The researcher may be focused on a particular event or situation, and there is room for subjective interpretation of what is happening. With regards to video recording, the video recording allows the researcher to also record notes. Its limitations may include people acting unnaturally towards the camera. Yes, when people know that they are being observed, and especially so there is a camera facing them, people acting unnaturally towards the camera or avoiding the camera, and the camera may not always see everything, but you know, people may behave differently. Okay, what about the use of photographs and artifacts? Photographs and artifacts are useful when there is a need to collect observable information or phenomena such as buildings, neighborhoods, dress, and appearance. Artifacts include objects of significance, memorabilia, instruments, tools, and others. While documentation, any and all kinds of documentation, may be used to provide information, a local paper, information on a notice board, administrative policies, and procedures. Let's consider again the same example given. You want to know what proportion of your English class likes rock music. In this method, you would randomly select people and you would just observe their behavior. In this scenario, you want to know people who like rock music. So, for example, you could play rock music for everybody in the class and you could just observe how they react to the music and if they have a response or if they are dancing or singing, and that would be a way to have an observational study. The positive side of this is that in this situation, you can acquire more details. If you're observing how someone responds to you playing rock music, you're going to get more idea. And at the same time, you're going to get more data. You're going to record especially how they react. The negative side of this method is that it is time consuming and it can be difficult to observe somebody for a longer period of time. So, this method takes more time and it is not also perfect because you don't have a control group. Those are the group of people that you are giving different kind of music and seeing how they respond to that. Yes. Well, with regards to experiment, okay? In this method, you randomly select people and you split them into groups and you have that includes a control group. And the situation with rock music, your control group could be having a group that listen to a different genre of music so that uh, so that way would you would be observing one group listening to rock and one group listening to something else and you would actually compare. It would show you if people are responding to a certain way just because you're giving them a certain treatment versus how do they actually feel about rock music. So let's take a look at this, the positive and the negative side. Again, the positive side is that the control group reduces bias. It also allows you to determine if there's a cause and an effect happening. So it will really just give you a much deeper understanding of how people are behaving based on your treatment to them, especially to the example medication. You can really determine if the medication is helping people or not. And the negative side of this method is, negative side of this method is, it is time consuming because you're going to have two different groups. It is a little bit harder to keep track of who's in which group. How are you treating each group? And also, this method always have to be concerned with ethics, meaning you are not going to persuade them to behave in a certain way or treating them in a way that is not okay. In this situation, you can do any of these methods, but you have to be aware of the ways you can get bias, especially in a survey. You can get a lot of bias responses and an observational study if you don't have a control group. So, an experiment is the best way to get at least amount of bias. Now, let's have this. Practice task 1. Prepare a sample interview guide using the format here. You are going to have this format sample. Well, considering of course the sample title, and you may opt to provide another title of your own. Your output will be rated based on the rubric. So, the format, example, the research title, or given the research title, A Home Away from Home, Success Stories of College Students in Barangay Tapayas. Again, the research title, A Home Away from Home, Success Stories of College Students in Barangay Tapayas. Question number 1. Okay, you've got to provide. Then provide also question number 2, then question number 3. That is for the task 1. For task 2, note some of observations done about a research focusing on superstitions and beliefs involving wedding. Again, note some observations done about the research focusing on superstitions and beliefs involving wedding. So, here's the observation guide. When two become one, wedding beliefs, rituals, and superstitions in Barangay Tapayas. So, first column, the wedding beliefs, rituals, and superstitions before. So, meaning before the wedding. Second column, wedding beliefs, rituals, and superstitions during, and that is during the wedding. And the third column, the wedding beliefs, rituals, and superstitions after the wedding. Okay, so that is task number 2. For task number 3, make a similar survey form to be used in the field. Use it in the sample research title provided for you as your guide. Your output will be rated based on a rubric. So, the research title for task number 3 is The Grouper Fisheries of Barangay Siramag. Again, the Grouper Fisheries of Barangay Siramag. Then survey questions. How many grouper fishers are actively involved in fishing? So meaning to say, how many groups of the fishermen are there who are actively involved in fishing? How many grouper fishers are actively involved in fishing? Second question, how much is the average income of every grouper fisher for a month? For a month, how much is the average income of every grouper fisher for the month? Next question. What are the expenses incurred by every grouper fisher? What are the expenses incurred by every grouper fisher? And the last question is, what are some other improvements in the lives of grouper fishers? For the assessment, you've got to prepare a qualitative research tool for your reference. Choose among from the interview guide, survey questionnaire, and observation guide. Here is the rubric or the rubrics for scoring. Task 1 and 3, including assessment. So, as to originality, uniqueness, relevance to the theme or the topic, then clarity and preciseness. So, rating scale from 70 to 100, where 70 to 80 stands for satisfactory, 80 to 90 stands for good, and 90 to 100, outstanding. Thank you, and God bless.